All right. Let's go to the design modeler. So again, this is what we are trying to build. All right, so there's some important dimensions here. Just go back. All right, so in order to build this, I create one rectangle with these dimensions 1, these are all dimensions 1 by 1.25 from here to here, and then I'm going to add the circles, this one and this one. The radius of this larger one is 0.5, which is going to give us obviously the diameter of 1 with the tangential at this point with the rectangle. And then there's going to be this circle. I'm going to trim out the extra edges, and then I'm going to extrude it by this much. Where's that? Okay. So from here to here is 2. And from here to here is 0.375, and from here to here we have to add an additional 0.375. All right, first the units, inches. The plane in which I want to make the sketch is this one, is this plane, YZ. And here's the thing about the design modeler. If you want to create a sketch quickly, here's the sketch. You can click on this guy. But keep in mind that unless you specify which plane you want to create this sketch on, it would pick the XY plane for your sketch. Right? So now, in my case, I actually want to create my sketch in the YZ plane. So then I have to first select the YZ plane, this plane, and then click sketch so that my new sketch will be made in the YZ plane, the base plane. All right, so YZ plane and new sketch. All right. So now I'm all set. In order to go to that YZ plane, in order to build it, I just need to click on the x-axis here, so that it will give me a 2D view of it. Right. I set the bottom of the rectangle at the at this as at the y-axis. Let me just make sure that. Okay. At the bottom of the axis, so here we go. This is a rectangle. I just roughly give it some dimensions, and then I'm going to adjust this. So now the dimensions are, this one should be 1.25, and this one should be 1. But before I do that, I have to do something. I have to make sure that this part is symmetric with respect to the y, this like the vertical axis, so that when I continue with my modeling, I'm not going to run into trouble. I'll explain that. I'll explain why I'm doing this. So let me just add the constraint of symmetry here. So we have this rectangle being symmetric with respect to the vertical axis. All right. Now I'm going to change the dimension. If I do that, I just get that nice 1 inch by 1.25 inch high rectangle. Are we good? Okay. So now I'm going to add. Let's just go back here. So right now, I just built this rectangle 1 by 1.25, then I have to add the circles 0.5 and 0.5 in the radius and 0.5 in the diameter. So what I do is I create the circles. Make sure that these circles are placed at this are eccentric circles, which means that their center is the same. So I just have to make sure that I'm placing them correctly, positioning them correctly. Now, a quick way to make sure this is true is by setting the distance between the circle, the center of the circles, and this axis. So if they both move, it means that they have the same center. So I give the dimension, the distance from here. Okay, this should be 1.25. Right, they both move, which means that they actually are tied together because of the center. So they're eccentric circles. So then the next thing I do, I adjust the circle's diameters or the radius. So I know that the larger one has a radius of 0.5. And if I go back to the dimensions, I see that I have an option for the radius as well as the diameter. So for the large one, I give 0.5 for the radius. And for the smaller one, I give 0.5 as the diameter. All right, so now I'm pretty much done with what I needed to do, basically to get the sketch. And then I have to trim out the extra edges. So there's an option in the design modeler named trim. So we need to trim out the extra edges here. So there, we have some, and unless you trim them out all, you won't be able to extrude. So I start doing that now. So under the modify, just trim, and then I just eliminate the extra edges here. This one, this one. Okay, let's see if I can extrude this. But before I do that, let's just do some calculations. So I have 2 here, 0.375, and the length of the extrusion would be times this plus the given length. It's going to be 2.75. All right, 2.75, yes. Let me see if I can do the extrusion now. Right. There might be some additional pieces that I need to remove. Let's just go back. Okay, let's see if it works better now. It's true. Okay, this is better. Yes. There was one additional edge that I did not trim out earlier, but now it should be good. I just did it, and it should give me that. All right. So now 2.75 is the length of extrusion, but what I want to do in order to make my modeling easier, I actually need to make it symmetric extrusion along both directions, and I use half of the total extrusion length, which is 1.375 inches, in order to get the same overall thickness or length of extrusion. All right, 1.375, keep that number in mind. So now I'm under the extrusion, I want to add the material, right? The direction is not normal, rather it's symmetric both, because I want to create that symmetric shape. And we only sketch was sketch number 1, and we should be able to generate that, all right? You guys see it? All right, so this is my top portion of the part. So you see, it has everything in it from here to here. So obviously I know that later I need to add those fillets, but I would add them later. So now the next thing that I want to do, I want to cut the material over here. So I want to remove the extra material from here. But keep in mind that this happens in a different axis. So if I want to go back to the original drawing, you see the plane that I want to use, or the sketch that I want to use to cut from material, belongs to a different plane, belongs to the XY plane. Right. So then I have to create a new sketch. So this one is in the XY plane, and this is a new sketch. So I just go back to that XY plane, and I create a rectangle, which is also symmetric. And this, because I'm cutting the material through it, throughout, the dimensions of this rectangle, the height of it, as far as the height of it, for as long as it passes through the part, pretty much covers everything from the top of the thickness line all the way to the top edge. For as long as it covers that, it should be fine. So it can exceed that limit. So there's no limit here. The most important thing here is that I want to make this symmetric, and I want to make the thickness consistent throughout. So I can just give 2 dimensions after I constrain that symmetry around the vertical axis. So I do that by adding the constraints. And I just give those dimensions so that I will ensure the thickness is consistent throughout. So dimensions, this should be 2. And then I have one more dimension to give from here to here. Do you guys know what this should be? 0.375. That's it. So now I'm ready to do the extrusion, but I only remove the material. All right, so now this should be not normal, but symmetric both. And then instead of fixed, I can choose to do all. Oh, I don't add the material, I actually cut the material. Okay. Are we good so far? All right. So this is as far as the top portion of the geometry. Now I want to go to the lower portion of the same geometry. All right, let's take a look at it. All right, so this is how I would do this, all right? I'm going to first add this shape, see? The rectangle, take away from it the circle. And then do the extrusion by this much, 0.375 or half of it, when I do that both symmetric. And then I'm going to add the circle. Why? The reason why I'm doing this is because the length of extrusion or the depth of extrusion is different for the two pieces. All right, so now I need to go back to this plane. This is my YZ plane. So YZ plane. So we're talking about the same width, and then the height is half of this, 1.25, 2.5 minus 1.25. This is also 1.25 from here to that center of the circle. Put it right here.
Oh, yeah.
And then add the constraint. So I place one corner of the rectangle over the horizontal axis, and then I add the constraint, symmetry. And then the dimensions. So again, dimensions mostly is 1 inch from here to here, the width, and the height is 1.25. And then I'm going to add the circle. So what I need to remove are these edges. So I'm going to trim out this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, let's see if I can extrude this. But then the depth of extrusion would be half of the thickness that we defined earlier. You see half of this dimension, which is the thickness.
Yeah.
0.1875. So I add the material, yes, I do both sides symmetric. And generate. All right. Okay, so when we do this, I just want you guys to pay close attention to this. We only have one solid, okay? Are we good so far? All right. And again, I'm recording this for any reason, so I apologize for the issues that may happen during the process. I try to fix them as soon as possible and take you to where we should be. Now the last thing is adding that circle or that cylinder here at the bottom. So we have the dimensions, and it belongs to the same plane, but with a different extrusion depth. So it belongs to the YZ plane. All right, so I still need to go back to the drawing just to get the The depth of extrusion in this case is going to be, because I'm going to do a symmetric both sides, it will be half of this. All right, so in order to make sure that I'm using the right numbers, I have to use this 1.5, and then this is going to be this depth of extrusion that I'm going to use this on 0.625. All right, so and again, new sketch. So I just go back to the YZ plane and I create a new sketch. Go back to the YZ, and then I'm going to create those two circles. All right, sketching circle. So that's one. That's the other. So the most important thing is that we make sure that these are eccentric circles. So I give the dimensions, the length distance from here to here should be 1.25 circles width, which is good. And now I just give the radius to the big one, which is the radius, I'm sorry, the diameter for the big one is 1, so the radius is 0.5, so 0.5. Then the radius, or the diameter rather, for the small one is 0.625. So the diameter okay. And remember, the depth of extrusion, because we're doing a symmetric, is 0.625 as well. So then I'm ready to do the extrusion. Okay. And add material, and instead of normal, I need to change it to both symmetric. Okay, almost there. So this is my overall 3D shape. I still have to add some fillets. Let's just go over that now. And there's one other thing that I want to show you. And that's how to slice the part so that you would access only a section of it rather than the entire part if you want to do the analysis on a quarter model, half model, and so on and so forth. All right. Would you guys help me identify where I need to add the fillet? Everywhere where there's a 90-degree angle of the connection, we can do that. So for example, here, 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 and here. These are what I can imagine. Do you guys see anything else? See this one, here, 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 here. Anything else? No. So now I have to go back to the sketch and see what the radius of the fillet was. So again, all of these dimensions are in inches and radius is 0.125. Okay, so how do we do that? So obviously, knowing the radius is important. And then we do it in 3D now. We don't go back to any of the sketches. Rather, we use this option here. Length, fixed radius. All right, so I'm going to select the edges that would have that feature. So, and I need to hold selection. Okay, so you see now these are highlighted in green. With everything, right? Okay, so the radius should be 0.125. Okay, so these are generated. I hope you guys see them. Zoom in. See, this is where it is. Over here, here, here. All right, so that was just building the entire geometry the design modeler. Now I want to do some extra steps here. I want to show you how we can just get a portion of this model, right? So if you look at it, how many axes of symmetry do we have in this case? So obviously the one that cuts through the material over here, which is our XY axis, is the axis of symmetry, right? But there's one other axis of symmetry, and this is because of the way that we construct this. It's the one that cuts right in the middle, and that would be the YZ plane. Right. So now I'm going to do this. I'm going to slice the part with these planes so that I will get portions of the model. Good. And I'll show you how we can leverage this into taking the analysis further. Right, so now I go back here, and then there's this option, slice. And slice by a plane, which is just fine. I just need to determine which plane I'm going to use. So YZ plane would be the plane that I need to use. So as soon as I do that, I see the change. Okay, if you don't see it, it's right here. You see, now I have two parts separated from one another. And then the other slice that I want to make is, so YZ did XY plane. So create slice all bodies by plane, but then this time I'm going to use the XY. Okay, now I have four parts. You see, all of these portions of the model will be visible here. So if I only need one part out of the others, out of the rest, out of the total, I can suppress the extra pieces. This is going to give me that quarter of the model that I would need to take for the purpose of further analysis.